One of my first phone calls would be to call the European leaders.
Would be China.
China was North Korea. We have no idea which of our most important allies he will have pissed off.
NATO.
United Nations.
All the members of the NATO alliance.
Trump is hell-bent on starting a war with Iran.
European allies in every Latin American country.
Breaking up with Russia and making up with NATO.
Well, the second wave of 2020 candidates sunk their teeth into foreign policy, sort of, during last night's Democratic debate. They bashed President Trump's handling of Iran and China, but did anyone offer any real solutions? Here to break it all down is Vice President for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation, James Carafano. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good to be with you.
So how do you think they did in terms of foreign policy?
Yeah, so I work at a nonpartisan foundation. I do policy, not politics, but so just look at the policies. Look, this is a layup for them. Everybody in that room is going to vote for them. It doesn't really matter what they say. They're just going to say, we'll do better than Trump, and people will be happy with that. So the fact that they didn't put anything on the table is, look, they don't have to in these things.
I don't know, but some would argue that President Trump in some areas, I mean, there have been plenty of experts that I've spoken with say that he is doing a good job, that he's not doing bad with in terms of trade with China. That's obviously one of the big things that they'll talk about in terms of the G20 summit coming up. And that in terms of Iran and the Iran deal, that he was correct to pull out of that. And, you know, it remains to be seen what happens with them.
Well, see that you just laid out what the Democrats' problems would be is look, any of these guys who get the nomination just has to say, we'll have a great foreign policy. But when they get to the general election, what are they going to say? The people are going to vote for them. They're going to vote for him. The people that support the president, they know he is doing a good job. And the people in the middle, it's going to be very, very difficult for the Democrats to say, no, you know, we're going to do way better when the guy that's on the job, if he hasn't started a war, if the economy is growing, if he has pushed back on the Chinese, pushed back on the Russians, cowed the Iranians, it's really, really hard to paint that as failure.
Yeah.
So all these kind of talking points that people write for them, they're going to fall like lead balloons in the general election.
In terms of Russia, because you mentioned that just now, let's move on to what's going on right now. All eyes on the debate, but President Trump just met with Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit, and then he meets with China tomorrow. What do you expect?
Yeah, like a nothing burger with a side of like not much more than that. Look, Putin has no interest in improving relations with the West. You know, they just readmitted Russia to the Council of Europe, and the contrition that Putin did for that is he said, well, the liberal world is obsolete. So look, he knows that nobody is going to give him anything, and so he's not really ready to deal. As a matter of fact, I think Putin is waiting Trump out and hoping he gets one of these softballs to replace him.
President Obama, sitting there, did answer a question about what they intend to talk about going into the meeting. He said trade, disarmament, protectionism in a positive way, and interference in the election. Some of the other big things in terms of the summit overall, we mentioned the trade fight with China, and then also North Korea, stalled nuclear talks with them, tensions with Iran as well.
Well, it's really important in the discussion with Russia is the president really is playing the long game. I mean, he does this with China, Iran, and North Korea. He always offers an off-ramp. He says, look, when you stop messing with my stuff, we can do a deal here. And so I think the reason why he continues to meet with Putin is to make the case that, dude, I can do this as long as you can. And when you stop, I am ready to deal. And that's why I think it's important for the president to go to these meetings and put on the table. I think it's very interesting, for example, that he brought up elections, something he's been criticized before. You know, I think a lot of us would have liked him to put other tough things on the table, like the 24 Ukrainian sailors that the Russians illegally hold. But he's been consistent with Putin, and Putin gets the message. It's like, you're not going to give me something for nothing. I get that.
Some argue that the Trump administration has been way tougher on Russia than the previous one.
Well, that's true.
James, thank you so much for joining us. We're out of time, but we really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, have a good day. And we will be right back.